"Your affection is too cheap," my wife whispered, until she saw someone else desiring it and... The cool November air always carried the scent of ambition in the city, a sharp, metallic tang that blended with the perfume of expensive suits and the lingering smoke of cigarillos. Tonight, at the annual Stellar Dynamics Gala, that scent was thickest around Sabrina. She was my wife, the woman I loved, and a professional vortex, drawing every eye and every opportunity into her orbit. I watched her from a polite distance. A few feet, a gulf the size of an ocean, as she flawlessly executed the Sabrina show. She was a symphony of control, her posture a taut, elegant bow, her smile a calibrated flash of brilliance, and her words, when she spoke to the CEO of a rival firm, were polished silver, reflecting exactly what she wanted them to see. My name is Zane. I am, perhaps, less a force of nature and more the steady current that runs beneath it. I work in architectural design, an infinitely patient and detail-oriented profession that contrasts sharply with Sabrina's world of volatile, high-stakes marketing. Where she thrived on the roar of the crowd, I found peace in the quiet certainty of blueprints. Our marriage, 8 years old, was a beautifully constructed house, aesthetically perfect, structurally sound, but lately terrifyingly hollow in its echoing halls. Sabrina, at 35, was a woman who didn't just understand image, she weaponized it. Her dark hair was always styled into a sleek, severe bob that whispered competence. And her midnight blue gown tonight seemed less a piece of clothing and more a second skin designed for domination. Everything she did was a strategic move on the social chessboard, and I, her husband, was meant to be the solid, impeccably dressed piece that never interfered with her checkmate. "Darling, you look utterly bored over there," she called out, her voice carrying just enough warmth to sound affectionate to the passing guests, yet sharp enough to pierce me where I stood nursing a glass of sparkling water. She approached, gliding like a swan across the polished marble floor. "Not bored, love," I corrected, offering a genuine softer smile than the one she employed. "Just admiring the masterpiece." "The catering or the architecture?" she asked, one perfectly sculpted eyebrow lifting in a challenge, entirely skipping the third option, her. I chuckled, trying to lighten the mood. The woman who commands the room without shouting a single word. I took a step closer, feeling that familiar, almost childish impulse to bridge the gap between us. My hand, without conscious instruction, reached out to gently enclose her elbow, a small, anchoring gesture, a lifeline I was casting across the social chasm. Her reaction was immediate, subtle, and devastating. She did not flinch, but her arm went rigid beneath my fingers, like cold steel. Her eyes, those beautiful deep brown eyes, flickered down to my hand, then back up to mine, communicating an entire chilling novel in a micro-expression. It wasn't hatred or annoyance, it was pure, unadulterated mortification. She leaned in, a gesture that looked intimate to the trio of junior analysts nervously hovering nearby, but which was, in fact, a cloaked reprimand. Her breath against my ear smelled faintly of mint and a very expensive Pinot Grigio. "Zane, stop. Right now," she hissed, her voice a low, vibrating wire of urgency. She pulled her elbow away so smoothly, so imperceptibly, that to an outsider, it would seem I had simply decided to withdraw my hand. It was the vanishing act of intimacy. "We're having a moment, Sabrina," I whispered back, a faint protest forming in my throat. She straightened, her face instantly redonning the mask of sophisticated grace. She subtly positioned her clutch between us, a small but impenetrable wall. "This is not the time for moments, Zane. Look around. These are the partners of my next major account. I need to be seen as composed, focused, and utterly professional. I cannot be seen as over-emotional." She didn't quite say I was too much, but the message was clear. My simple, honest desire for connection was a liability. It was an unruly string she needed to snip off her tailored suit before anyone noticed the imperfection. "I don't like being the focus of that kind of attention," she added, a final, definitive stroke, sealing the verdict. "It's unnecessary. Don't be so demonstrative in front of people. Don't be so demonstrative in front of people." The phrase coiled around my heart, a little snake of ice. I looked at my hand, the one that had been rejected, and it suddenly felt foreign, clumsy, and ridiculously large. I swallowed the thick lump of disappointment and jammed that offending hand into my trouser pocket, letting my fingers curl into a tight, frustrated fist. My anger never had a chance to bloom. Sabrina's denials weren't loud or dramatic. They were surgical and efficient. They didn't inspire rage. They induced a peculiar kind of numbness. A hollow ache began to spread through my chest. It wasn't a fresh wound, but the reopening of an old one, a constant reminder that my affection, my simple need to touch and be touched, was viewed by my wife as a cheap commodity, something disposable, distracting, and certainly not worthy of display in her gilded cage of professional perfection. In that moment, standing in the blinding glamour of the gala, I felt like a small boy whose enthusiastic drawing had just been dismissed by the stern art teacher for not following the prescribed lines. I wasn't her partner. I was a beautifully designed, but ultimately unnecessary accessory. Right. Composed, I managed, the word tasting like ash. I forced my lips into a polite, neutral line, the expression of a man who knows his place and promises not to inconvenience the star. Sabrina nodded once, satisfied that the stray piece of string had been tucked away. She turned instantly to greet a passing couple, her smile widening into its full, dazzling professional wattage. The brief, cold conversation between us had evaporated without a trace, leaving me exactly where I started, politely alone in a crowded room. And that was it. That night marked the subtle, silent withdrawal. I stopped reaching. I stopped offering the small, unsolicited touches, the reassuring squeeze of the hand, the quick, protective arm around her waist, the lingering brush of my fingers on the back of her neck. Why cast pearls before swine, as the saying goes? If my affection was so cheap, so unprofessional, then I would hoard it. I would keep it locked away. The space between us, once merely physical, had now solidified into a psychological fortress, built by her demands and cemented by my profound sense of inadequacy. I watched her interact with others, her animated gestures, her easy, performative rapport. She was a master of connecting with everyone except the man she married. The bitter irony wasn't lost on me. I realized that night that Sabrina didn't object to attention. She objected only to the kind of attention, unscripted, intimate, and uncontrolled, that I offered. Little did I know, this calculated distance I was now maintaining, this careful self-censure, was merely the preparation for the impending shockwave. The stage was set, the emotional wires were severed, and all it would take was one small, authentic flicker of human warmth directed elsewhere to bring her pristine structure crashing down. My isolation in that hall, my conscious act of retreat, was the very mechanism that would later ignite her ego and force her to see what she had so casually discarded. I took a slow sip of water, the ice cold and sharp, mirroring the chilling realization that my wife preferred the applause of strangers to the quiet love of her husband. I was ready for the night to end, ready to go home to our perfect, silent house, and fall asleep beside the beautiful woman who had successfully alienated the very thing she claimed to want, a real, messy, human connection. The story, however, was only just beginning. My self-imposed retreat began to feel less like punishment and more like a quiet survival mechanism. After the gala, I became a monk of emotional distance, diligently maintaining the respectful, non-demonstrative posture Sabrina had prescribed. Our interactions were now transactional, discussions about logistics, social calendars, or professional updates. The temperature in our beautiful home dropped a few degrees, yet Sabrina seemed perfectly content, thriving in the cool, controlled environment she had engineered. She had the professional image she desired. I had the aching emptiness she had enforced. The universe, however, has a peculiar sense of dramatic timing. It enjoys proving that intimacy is not a switch you can simply turn off and on to suit your public relations strategy. The catalyst arrived, ironically, at a joint industry mixer, an event where our professional circles briefly overlapped. Sabrina was there with a potential European client, a large, imposing man whose attention she was expertly massaging. I was catching up with my own team, celebrating the successful closure of the city's largest public park project. This is where Leo enters the frame. Leo isn't a character built for the gilded, restrictive halls of corporate ambition. He is pure, unfiltered sunlight. He's my lead structural engineer, a man whose honesty is as solid as the foundations he designs. He laughs easily, talks loudly, and hugs often. There is no filter between his heart and his actions. He's the antithesis of everything Sabrina champions. We were standing near a crowded bar area. My team had just finished toasting the project. The applause had just died down, and a genuine sense of accomplishment and camaraderie filled the air. This was warmth I hadn't felt in weeks, a connection born of shared effort and mutual respect, entirely separate from my fractured life at home. "Zane, man, you did it again," Leo exclaimed, his face bright with admiration. He clapped me hard on the shoulder, a friendly, robust strike that jolted me out of my habitual reserve. "The way you handled the zoning dispute last month. Pure genius. We should name a structural beam after you, the Patience Beam." I laughed, a rich, unforced sound that felt foreign even to my own ears. I hadn't laughed like that in Sabrina's presence for months. It was 90% caffeine and 10% sheer terror, Leo. But thank you. Seriously, the team was brilliant. Leo, always one to escalate a simple gesture into a full display of friendship, shook his head vehemently. "Nah, man. You lead from the front. You deserve this." He stepped forward, pulling me into a quick, bear-like embrace, a spontaneous, utterly uncalculated gesture of shared triumph. A toast to the quiet man who moves mountains. The hug lasted maybe 2 seconds, a purely platonic, celebratory burst of connection. But in those 2 seconds, a dam broke inside me. I reciprocated the hug instinctively, feeling the genuine human warmth, the simple, uncomplicated affection of a friend. It was the antithesis of the cold steel I had felt under my fingers at the Stellar Dynamics Gala. It felt good. It felt valid. As we pulled apart, grinning at each other, I saw her. Sabrina was on the periphery, having just concluded her talk with the European client. The client was walking away, and Sabrina's gaze, sharp and predatory, was meant to be fixed on the departing opportunity. Instead, it was locked onto me and Leo. The transformation on her face was swift and startling, like watching an elegant marble statue suddenly crack. The polite, professional smile, the one she reserved for securing million-dollar contracts, vanished. Her jaw tightened, a muscle jumping beneath the smooth skin. Her eyes, usually cool and calculating, sparked with an emotion I hadn't seen directed at me since the early days of our relationship: intensity. But this wasn't the intensity of desire. It was the chilling heat of violation. It wasn't a look of romantic jealousy. Leo was happily married to a woman Sabrina knew socially, and the nature of our interaction was purely brotherhood. No, this was the look of a monarch watching a subject give their fealty to a rival kingdom. It was the sting of ego. The attention, the simple, unfiltered warmth, was mine to give, and yet, I was offering it to someone else, and someone else was openly, gleefully receiving it. The silent message flashed across the distance. That is mine. That gesture, that intimacy, that unreserved warmth. That belongs to me or to no one at all. Sabrina quickly regained her composure, but the damage was done. The polite distance she had demanded from me had just been bridged by another, unintentionally, and the sight was clearly a poison to her pride. She nodded curtly to an assistant and began walking directly toward me, her heels clicking a rhythmic, ominous warning on the polished floor. "Excuse us, gentlemen," she said, her voice smooth but edged with steel, the polite, possessive tone she usually reserved for reclaiming a stolen parking spot. She slipped her hand into my arm, a sudden, surprising act of physical possession, and tugged me away from Leo. "See you tomorrow, Zane." Leo called out, oblivious to the sudden diplomatic crisis he had triggered. Sabrina didn't even acknowledge him. She led me straight toward the exit, her grip tight, dragging me through the crowd like a prize she needed to reclaim before the auctioneer's gavel fell. We were in the car, speeding away from the venue, before the inevitable explosion. "That was utterly inappropriate, Zane," she spat, her voice tight and low, vibrating with suppressed fury. Her facade had completely shattered, revealing the raw, wounded pride beneath. "Putting on that pathetic display with Leo? Did you have to look so bonded? It makes us look disorganized. It makes me look disorganized." I turned my head slightly, watching the city lights streak past the window, feeling a strange calmness settle over me, the quiet before a storm I had long anticipated. "Inappropriate, Sabrina? What part exactly?" My voice was measured, deliberately low, refusing to match her frantic pitch. Was it the laughing? Or was it the 2-second, celebratory hug? It was the entire spectacle. You were being excessively demonstrative. You looked like two puppies rolling around. It was unprofessional, and everyone saw it. My client was still nearby. I paused, letting the silence expand and fill the space between us, a space she had meticulously carved out herself. "So," I said finally, my voice laced with a devastating clarity of truth. "Let me understand this. When I tried to simply hold your hand at the gala, you told me it was over-emotional, unprofessional, and that my affection was a distraction you didn't want in public." I turned to face her fully, my eyes holding hers in the dim light filtering from the street lamps. But when I share a completely platonic, spontaneous moment of joy with a colleague, the exact kind of warmth you push away, suddenly you're angry. Suddenly, it's utterly inappropriate that I showed a connection to someone else. I leaned closer, the quiet intensity of my voice demanding her attention. "Why are you angry, Sabrina? Why does it bother you? Since when did my affection become valuable? It was too cheap for you to accept at the gala. Now that someone else has desired it, even just for a moment, and I gave it freely, you want to claim control? You want to enforce boundaries around something you yourself deemed worthless." The silence that followed was heavy, crushing. My words, delivered with surgical precision, were the exact opposite of the unprofessional emotion she hated. They were facts, undeniable and cold. Sabrina stared straight ahead at the road, her perfect posture finally slumping, just a fraction. Her hands, gripping the steering wheel, were white-knuckled. The fury had been replaced by a visible, profound shock, the realization that her perfectly constructed emotional fortress was crumbling, not because of an external attack, but because the occupant had simply decided to step outside. She had preferred my controlled distance. Now, she was witnessing the consequence of that distance. My freedom to connect elsewhere. And that, more than any professional misstep, felt like a catastrophic loss of control. The mask was off, and for the first time in a long time, I saw genuine, naked conflict in her eyes. The air in the car remained thick, a palpable consequence of the words I had just launched at Sabrina. My clarity had become a mirror reflecting her own emotional tyranny, and she hated the sight of it. She didn't offer a defense, a justification, or an apology. Instead, she offered silence, a silence that, for the first time, felt like a retreat, not a weapon. When we arrived home, the tension didn't dissipate, it merely moved indoors, settling like dust over our pristine furniture. I didn't press the issue. I had said what needed to be said, and the truth, unlike my rejected affection, carried a heavy weight she couldn't dismiss as unprofessional. The days that followed were an uncomfortable, fascinating study in human reaction. Sabrina, the master of calculated action, began to calculate her response to the loss of control. She wasn't fighting for my love yet. She was fighting to reclaim my attention, to reposition herself as the sole proprietor of my emotional life. Her attempts at repair were clumsy, transparent, and chillingly strategic. The distance she had established was now what she feared most, and she tried desperately to fill it with gestures that felt too deliberate, too performed. On Tuesday morning, as I was tying my tie, she walked into the closet, a space usually dedicated to silent, separate preparation, and without a word, she reached out and adjusted the knot. Her fingers lingered momentarily on my chest. "You look tired, Zane," she murmured, her voice softer than I'd heard it in months. It was a beautiful sound, the melody of a loving wife, but it lacked the crucial rhythm of sincerity. "I'm fine, Sabrina," I replied, stepping back slightly, the movement purely reflexive. I couldn't help it. The emotional muscle memory of her rejection was too strong. She noticed the retreat. Her eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly, a flicker of that old, demanding pride crossing her face before it was smoothed over by the new, manufactured tenderness. "I was thinking," she continued, pressing on, "since we both had a grueling week, maybe we should skip the charity dinner on Friday. Just stay in. Order that expensive imported wine you like. We could actually talk." A week ago, this suggestion would have been a dream, a genuine moment of connection superseding a professional obligation. Now, it felt like a lure, a calculated attempt to pull me back onto her territory. She wasn't prioritizing me. She was prioritizing the control over my presence. "That's thoughtful," I conceded, giving her credit for the effort, if not the motive. But I already accepted Leo's invitation to watch the football game with the team. I promised I'd go. The mention of Leo's name was an immediate, low-voltage shock to her system. The tenderness vanished, replaced by a defensive rigidity. Leo. The name was spat out, a small, distasteful object. You'd prefer to watch a rowdy, senseless game with a bunch of engineers over a quiet evening with your wife? I sighed, picking up my briefcase. Sabrina, the quiet evenings, the ones I desperately wanted, were repeatedly dismissed as unprofessional, or too much when I initiated them. You created this gap. I'm simply filling it with people who accept my company, noise and all. I walked towards the door, stopping just short of leaving. And I'm not preferring anything. I made a commitment. You taught me the importance of reliability, didn't you? Her face was a study in frustrated calculation. She wanted to forbid me to issue a command, but she knew, deep down, that such an action would only prove my earlier point, that her newfound affection was just another tool of control. Fine, she finally said, the word clipped and cold. Don't be home too late. And try to look presentable, even if it is just a sports bar. Her correction wasn't about my appearance. It was about maintaining the image of the husband, even in absentia. I left the house feeling a profound, terrifying tranquility. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger is an energy, a desire for change. What I felt was detachment. I was watching my marriage, and my wife, from an emotionally safe distance, like a scientist observing a volatile reaction. Her attempts at connection, the lingering touch, the dinner invitation, didn't spark the joy or relief they were designed to elicit. They felt like tiny, insincere taxes she was paying to an injured ego. This was the quiet, chilling realization. I had checked out. Sabrina's fear was not that she had lost my love, but that she had lost her power over my affection. She was trying to lure the caged bird back with treats, unaware that the cage door had been left open and the bird had already flown, leaving behind only the echo of its song. That evening, I did go to the sports bar. It was loud, messy, and wonderfully real. Leo and the team were a tapestry of genuine camaraderie, elbows knocking, beer splashing, laughter booming. And for the first time in months, I felt my own boundaries relax. I wasn't Zane, the meticulously composed husband of the marketing powerhouse. I was just Zane, the architect, celebrating a win. When I got home late that night, the house was dark. I assumed Sabrina was asleep, perhaps already back in her world of professional dreams. But as I walked past the living room, I saw her. She was sitting on the sofa, bathed in the cool blue glow of her laptop screen. She wasn't working, however. She was scrolling through her phone, her expression unreadable, but undeniably alone. She looked up as I entered. "You're late." "The game went into overtime," I explained simply. She set her phone down. Then, she did something truly unprecedented. She stood up and walked toward me. Not with the aggressive stride of a manager, but with the tentative steps of someone approaching a dangerous, unfamiliar shore. She reached for my hand, the very hand she had rejected at the gala, and this time, she held it. Her grip was unsure, almost trembling. "I realized something this week, Zane," she whispered, her gaze fixed on our joined hands, as if studying a difficult foreign text. "When I saw you and Leo, I felt jealous. Not because I thought you were romantically interested in him, obviously, but because of the ease. The absolute, unburdened ease of your connection." She finally lifted her eyes to mine, and they were moist, not with anger, but with a raw, panicked vulnerability. "I spent so much time crafting the image of our life, keeping everything clean and controlled, that I forgot what it felt like to actually live it. I turned your affection into something cheap by making it conditional. I made you feel like you had to earn the right to touch me, even after 8 years." She tightened her grip, a genuine plea in the action. "I don't want that anymore. I want what you had with Leo, but with me." Her admission was profound, a crack in the granite of her ego. It was the moment she stopped asking for control and started asking for connection. But her honesty arrived too late to mend the internal structure I had built to protect myself. I didn't pull my hand away, but I didn't squeeze hers back either. My response was not fueled by resentment or triumph. but by that quiet, profound emptiness. "You've gotten the distance you wanted, Sabrina," I told her, my voice gentle, almost mournful. "It's here now. It's real. It's inside me. The anger is gone, and in its place is just quiet." That's what happens when you tell someone their heart is too much trouble to be seen in public. Eventually, they just take it and keep it safely locked away. I met her tear-filled gaze. "I hear you now. I believe you want to fix things. But you've only just started the journey back. I'm not sure I remember the way to the door you locked." The silence returned, but this time, it was different. It wasn't the silence of professional disapproval, nor was it the silence of wounded ego. It was the heavy, shared silence of two people standing on the precipice of a future that felt terrifyingly uncertain. Sabrina had won the battle for professional perfection, but she had lost the war for my immediate, unreserved heart. The road to genuine reconciliation would be long, and the effort would now rest entirely on her shoulders to prove that her rediscovered value for my affection was driven by true love, not just the fear of my absence. My words, that quiet declaration of emotional withdrawal, had landed like a massive stone in the tranquil lake of Sabrina's professional life, shattering the reflection of her perfect control. She stood there, holding my hand, her face a canvas of dawning realization and genuine fear. It was the fear of losing something she had only just recognized as invaluable. The night ended not with a dramatic reconciliation, but with a silent understanding of the immense, self-inflicted damage. I didn't reject her physical presence, but I didn't offer the easy reassurance she craved. We went to bed, physically close but emotionally separated by the weight of 8 years of calculated distance. The path toward genuine repair was slow, tentative, and utterly unlike the swift, decisive action Sabrina usually employed in her career. She couldn't simply delegate this problem or solve it with a brilliant marketing strategy. She had to rebuild the foundation of trust, bolt by bolt. The first change was subtle but meaningful. She started prioritizing presence over performance. The following weekend, we were invited to a large, influential charity luncheon. In the past, this event would have been her personal Olympics. She would have coached me on who to talk to, where to stand, and what to wear. This time, as we were dressing, she paused, looking at herself in the full-length mirror. "I hate this dress," she confessed, her gaze fixed on the expensive silk. "It's too restrictive. It looks exactly like the image they expect." I watched her, cautious but intrigued. "Then don't wear it." She turned, a flicker of genuine surprise in her eyes. "But the photos, the perception, the chairman will be there." "The chairman will see you in whatever you choose to wear," I countered gently. "But I will see you. And frankly, the restrictive look is getting predictable. Wear the one you actually like, the emerald green one. The one that actually lets you breathe." She bit her lip, debating with the ingrained voice of professional self-censure. After a long minute, she dropped the silk dress back into the closet and pulled out the emerald gown. It was softer, flowing, and crucially, it was her choice, unburdened by external expectation. At the luncheon, the real test began. As always, influential people flocked to Sabrina. But this time, she didn't use her practiced withdrawal technique. When I approached her and her group, she didn't subtly reposition herself or pull away. Instead, when she introduced me, she did so with genuine pride, and more importantly, when the conversation lulled, she slipped her hand into mine. It wasn't a tight, possessive grip like the one in the car. It was a soft, seeking connection. A silent acknowledgement that she valued our unity over her individual professional sheen. We were speaking with a major investor, a man who spoke in loud, booming confidence. At one point, he asked me a technical question about the park design that I struggled to hear over the din of the crowd. In the past, Sabrina would have smoothly taken over the conversation, subtly sidelining my perceived clumsiness. But this time, she leaned her head against my shoulder, a tender, spontaneous gesture, and simply said, "He's asking about the tensile strength of the cantilevered canopy, Zane." It was such a small act, a tiny moment of authentic intimacy in a public sphere, but it was a revelation. She was using her proximity not to control or reprimand me, but to support me. It was a lifeline thrown across the gap she had created. Later that afternoon, when we were finally alone, I brought up the moment. "The canopy detail," I said, leaning against the kitchen counter while she made a cup of tea. That was a good save. But more than that, the gesture. I didn't expect it. She set the kettle down, her movements thoughtful. I know you didn't. And that's the tragedy, isn't it? I'm supposed to be your first safe harbor, and yet, you've been expecting me to capsize your boat for years. She walked toward me, not with the predatory confidence of a professional closing a deal, but with the quiet humility of a student approaching a difficult lesson. Zane, when you said that your anger was gone and replaced by quiet detachment, I realized I hadn't just rejected your affection. I rejected your vulnerability. I treated your heart like a draft agreement that needed endless revisions before it was fit for public view. But love isn't a contract, is it? It's a messy, loud, complicated thing that needs to be celebrated, not hidden. She took my hands in hers, looking straight into my eyes, the kind of unflinching gaze she usually reserved for the most sensitive negotiations. I can't promise to stop caring about perception entirely. It's part of who I am, part of the job. But I can promise that our connection, our shared space, will no longer be subservient to my career image. The most valuable thing I own, Zane, is you. And I want the world to know I'm proud of that ownership, even if it means being a little less composed. She paused, a genuine smile, the unfiltered one I hadn't seen since our wedding, breaking through her seriousness. I also want the world to know that you are mine, she added, a playful yet resolute note entering her voice. I don't want to be jealous when I see Leo stealing your excellent hugs anymore.